AJ Riedel here. I'm the host of the Thriving Through podcast, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with self-employed consultants about what it takes to build a profitable and fulfilling consulting practice. So I have a question for you. Are you struggling to sell your consulting services because you feel like you're bad at sales or don't have formal sales training? Howard Wolpoff is here to talk about how he answered that question. He's a sales coach known for his dramatic transformation from someone who openly admitted that he sucked at sales to becoming a successful coach who helps others master selling. With years of experience in sales training and business coaching, he's helped consultants and business owners achieve confidence and systematic growth in their sales results. If you want to discover how to overcome your sales anxieties and develop the confidence needed to grow your practice, you won't want to miss this episode. Please welcome Howard Wolpoff. Howard Wolpoff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to be here.
You told me something fascinating when we had our interview earlier, our kind of pre-interview. You used to say, I suck at sales, right?
I think that's pretty fair. I think a lot of people are not trained to sell, as I wasn't when I started my career way back when.
So what finally changed for you? Because I don't think, would you say today you wouldn't say you suck at sales?
I would not say I suck at sales today.
Okay. So what psychological shift had to happen for you to go from I suck at sales to being good at it, maybe even liking it?
I think you really have to get some wins under your belt. Once you get some wins, when you get some confidence, which obviously means once you get some sales, then you start to analyze what did make that work well. What is the what can you use from that to move forward with other sales? And I was in my first sales job with no training whatsoever, but I was selling baseball. I was working for a minor league baseball team, and in that I was uh, I was talking about being at the ballpark. It was the first time we were bringing baseball back to Brooklyn, New York, after the Dodgers had moved a minor league baseball team. And so I was getting some sales here and there, and that story was working. But looking back, I wasn't selling. But I had a really great experience. We were planning a special day at the ballpark, honoring the Honeymooners, the old television show with Jackie Gleason, which was based and focused in Brooklyn. He was a bus driver, and I was working with someone I connect with at TV Land because they had the rights to the show. And I was able to secure rights to some of the programming we can put on the scoreboard, a giveaway item. It was a squeezy ball shaped like a TV with the TVA Land logo. And this was a huge win for the team in general. But the fact that I was able to put all the pieces together and sell them on and be successful really was a big confidence boost. Long story short, the day we selected rained heavily and the game was rained out. However, we did so much work to promote the events that we put all these press releases out, and it picked up around the country. So there were articles around the country promoting that we had Honeymooners Night on August 16th. I actually think that was the date. It didn't happen. It happened 2 weeks later, squeezed into a makeup game, rain out day, the makeup. But the fact that all those pieces got put together and we sent out this press release and it got picked up nationally was pretty inspiring, and really was the boost I needed as I move forward with that role.
Fast forward to starting your own consulting business. How did that confidence that you built through those jobs, how did that play out in your own business?
Well, thankfully, I grew much more as a salesperson from that point. And there's definitely a timeline between when I left the baseball team to when I started doing business coaching. And with that, I learned a lot of different types of techniques with sales, but I wouldn't say I was a sales master at that point either. So again, trying to separate a business owner with their money is not an easy task, especially when it's more personal as opposed to buying a widget for the company that you need to sell. Business coaching is something that it was extremely important for business owners to go through, but not many of them really would initially make that investment just from the first conversation. And it was you find different ways to go about selling. Actually, I just got out of a meeting right now talking about what happens if people say no and the reasons to say no and how to pivot from that. Knowing that type of information can get people, because not every no is a no. Some of it's a stall. Some of it is really trying to really analyze what the offer is, and sometimes it's a no. But there are ways to kind of walk through a conversation with someone to make that no into a yes.
That makes sense. So tell me who your target market is.
Well, right now I'm a sales coach. So I work with sales leaders and sales individuals. So sales leaders could be the director of sales, vice president of sales, a business owner who has a sales team that they have. They see the challenges they're having. They sense they probably have people who really have no sales training that have been trying to work their way through. And we work with them to come in and give a sales training workshop to their team to introduce sales coaching. And individuals who are looking at the challenges they're having that know they need help are like I work with them too, the same plan that I would go through with the team of salespeople, so that they can really improve their not just the revenues they're creating, but just their confidence, their understanding of sales, and really that changes everything in their life outside of work as much as it does inside of work.
So tell me more about that. How does it change their life kind of in general?
I think in a couple of ways. One, when you are focusing on your time management, so putting all the right time and effort into what you're doing in the sales day and structuring that so that you are not interrupted from the sales calls you need to be doing or the sales meetings. It also allows you to schedule the rest of your day. So it's family time with the kids and date night with your significant other. Putting that into a calendar really does help the process. But also, once you have confidence in yourself, once you're hitting your numbers and exceeding them, not feeling that stress of what's going to happen if I don't hit my numbers, what's going to happen if I don't exceed my draw, and all I'm getting is my draw, and 3 months later when I hit it big, I have all that money to pay back into the draw. Those are a lot of stresses that people have, and that does translate into everything they do in their life.
Okay. I'm going to turn to podcasting
Okay.
because you use podcasting as a sales strategy or a lead generation strategy.
Yes, I have done that a number of times.
Okay. So tell me how that works. It's kind of an unconventional, or it's an approach that a lot of consultants wouldn't think of using. So tell me a little bit about how you use podcasting to prospect for sales coaching clients.
Well, the key that you want to have with the person is a conversation. So finding the right prospects who you think could be a good client would make for a great guest for your podcast. So especially if your podcast is focused on the topic of what you're doing. So I had a podcast on small business marketing, and we talked about the journey of someone who, how they created their business, who they told, what they did in the process of that, and how it's evolved over the course of time. Small business owners who need sales coaching are great people to have that conversation with. Right now, I have a sales podcast. I like speaking to sales leaders in the same result. Um, the So when you have them on the podcast, you are you have a set of questions you want to ask, but you're kind of looking for certain pieces in the answers as you're receiving them. And then at the end of the conversation, a very strong tactic to use is, look, this was fantastic. I loved everything that you had to share. There are questions that I felt I couldn't ask. I really didn't want to record, but I really do want to dig in deeper and learn a little bit more. Could we spend another 30 minutes tomorrow to talk about this? No one said no to me. And now, day later, you're talking about these things you're asking. Now you're digging questions as if you were really on a prospecting call, even though you're still focusing on the balance of it being a conversation, not a sales pitch. And then you say, "Hey, I have this idea. I have this thought." And then you go into your pitch of how would sales coaching help you and help your team? How would business coaching help your business and some of the challenges that you're having as a business owner?
Okay. Yeah, because I'm curious what your follow-up sequence is. You talked a little bit about it, but how do you transition from thanks for being on my show to let's talk about coaching?
Um, it's really it's you have to really pace yourself in the conversation. So you do not want to jump in and saying, "Hey, thanks for coming to join me. I gotta tell you something," or the translation that would probably go into that. But the truth is, there's things I really want to learn deeper about, and things that they learned, and I'm asking these questions. But if you're if you are there's two ways to look at it. One is just a progression of them telling you some of the challenges that they're having. And so if you're just having it as a general conversation, and then when you feel you hit that point of, okay, here's some pain, then you go into it. Or there's a strategy to try to develop that information from people, to really find that cut, that problem that they're having, really putting salt into the wounds, and asking them things of how they feel about the situations that they're experiencing, and then finally showing them that there is a way to address this, and I have this great idea. Let me talk to you about it.
Okay. Speaking of challenges, want you to give us a story or two about some of the challenges that you have faced starting your own business and how you've overcome them.
Well, I think the biggest challenge was starting off in the first place. I was a vice president at a marketing advertising agency here in Jacksonville, Florida. We were doing a number of things with our clients, really great work, but we also had a lead generation concept of creating a studio and having people come in for these online TV interviews that we were putting up on a website. They had access to put up on their social media and their websites themselves. And the goal after that was to bring them into a room and pitch them on this audit. And the audit go through everything about their business, their marketing, the images they're using, video, the back end of the websites, all of it, and then eventually bring them into an office with 3 screens and an hour and a half worth of drinking water out of a fire hose to eventually give them a pitch on how we can address all of it, as a marketing agency. There was a buy-in of $2,500 for the audit, and a lot of these businesses were you see the uncomfortableness because they didn't have a budget. They didn't have a budget structured. Here's money allocated for marketing. There are things that are challenges to them that if they took the money from wherever they're taking it from, that would remove it from something else, and they see that calculating in their heads. And more often than not, these small business owners did not take us up on the offer. So I saw an opportunity there, and that with a couple of changes, it gets timing is everything. A couple of changes that was going on with the agency was the right time for me to move on and start working one-on-one with some of these types of business owners. And it was definitely a challenge. I've worked from home before, remotely at that point, but not full-time remotely from home. And so that was it was definitely challenging getting used to. You definitely want to make sure that wherever you're working is far away from the refrigerator. That's always very helpful. But getting in that rhythm of prospecting and pitching and developing a funnel it took a while to get into the rhythm and then kind of figure things out along the way.
Okay. When we talked earlier, you mentioned the importance of getting the decision maker in the room, which is a challenge that a lot of consultants have. How do consultants actually make that happen? I mean, what's the conversation that gets the CFO or the CTO or the CMO to join that call?
Well, there's a whole process that I go through when I'm coaching my sales clients that really develops the conversation and allows for you to get to have this information be revealed. Now, taking a step back from that, whenever you're selling, you want to be asking questions, you want to be asking the right questions and answering them so that any objections that they have, you've somewhat addressed in the earlier process. So at the end, they're like, let me think about it. I need to call me in 6 months. I need to speak to my boss. I need to speak to my spouse. If you ask certain questions along the way, then you've already combated those objections. So you're leading them towards saying a yes. But it's very key to start the conversation as part of the conversation, asking the right clarifying questions of where they're at this point and the things that they are happy about that are happening right now. And you shouldn't be afraid of asking those questions, especially if there's a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry about that. Uh, Another company that they're working with, and they don't be afraid of that. Is find out what they like, find out what they don't like, and that's the key. So now you sense of what's the good and the bad and the ugly and why they're speaking with you. Then you want to find out, is there someone else that needs to be part of this conversation? So before you go any further and throw them a pitch, you want to know that you know who to speak to, and if the person's not there, then you need to speak to them at another time when they can schedule the appointment.
Okay. What do you see? What's the biggest mistake you see consultants make when they're selling to companies where multiple people are involved in the decision?
It's you want to have everyone on the same page as fast and quickly as possible, and that's it. Sometimes it's hard to get everyone into a room, but you want to make sure that if you can get people into a room as fast as you can, so you don't want it where, oh, okay, let me go speak to my boss, because there's now a game of telephone that they're not going to have the same information that you are providing. They can give highlights of it, and that other person might not have the same excitement that they do sharing it with them. So it's just it's all about making that appointment the right way.
Okay. All right. Now, how many times should a consultant follow up with a prospect before giving up?
That's a very interesting question. And that question has been, over the course of time, I've learned a lot of different things. You got to speak them 5 times. Try 5 times, and that's more enough. Oh no, now it's changed to 10 times. Now it's changed to 20 times. You got to think about it sometimes as a television campaign. They're looking for reach and frequency because people aren't paying attention all the time when the conversation is being put in front of them. But it's you have to have a mix of ways you're reaching out to people. It's not just on the phone. It's not just an email. It's a blending of it. It's communicating them through LinkedIn, it's the unfortunate answer is it depends on the person in the end. My strategy on marketing is people want to be marketed to the way they want to be marketed to. And that could be a lot of different things and a lot of different methods. So sometimes it may take 10 times, sometimes it may take 20, but you going to revisit someone every so often is not a bad thing, as long as you know where that line is between positive follow-up and absolute harassment. You got to know what that line is, and that's it.
Okay. How do you generate leads?
In different ways. I think first and foremost, the best way for anyone to develop a lead is through a referral. That's you have an endorsement of someone already having the conversation. And if you're able to start the conversation the right way, you can get people very excited about the fact that Joe gave their name for you to speak to, and that just rolls into the process. Other than that, it's like years ago, you really would go pre-COVID, going to networking events was such a big thing. But the challenge with that is, unless you really are dedicated and you're going to play the long game, it's going to take a very long time for you to really make enough relationships with the people in that room for them to be comfortable with giving referrals. Even if you're spending money on a BNI, it's still going to take time for you to really start to see that investment being recouped in the process. You have a lot of people that know you, and they may not be your prospect, and that's probably a good thing in this process. But if you start digging deep into your network and reaching out to people, you'll find lots of different people who can refer you to the right people because they know a lot of people. It's just really kind of trying to find that right rhythm to it. But other than that, there are so many different resources to do searches and find leads. Lots of different programs out there that will generate the leads for you. That the leads can be found. It's not hard to find leads. The hard part is trying to sell them.
Do those methods of a third party finding leads for you, do they work for consultants?
I think in the same way that you trying to connect with people randomly on LinkedIn because they have the right title works. It all depends on the mechanism of how you're trying to connect with them. And if you've signed up with a company and they've given you 1,000 names that match your avatar, that's wonderful. Hopefully, they've also give you some sort of suggestion of how to communicate with them. But the truth is, if you can get them on the phone, that's the best way. Texts and emails and all that. Emails might have been successful. You got to be smarter. You have to be really strategic in what you're writing to capture people's attention. Someone sent me an email before that. Let's see if I can just that I didn't know who the person was, and oh, it was so good. It's really worth jumping into. Oh, devastating diagnosis. Like, okay, what is devastating diagnosis? And I opened it up because I want to know what that was. Basically, I have something to sell you, and all the other basic subjects for emails, most people are just going to delete. So it's really, can you get them on the phone? Can you create a rapport with them quickly so that each of you and they are smiling in the process, so that you can have a conversation with them, as opposed to, oh, it's another sales call where I get myself into picking the phone up.
So, but people are busy, and if you call them, they weren't expecting your call, they don't know you. How do you actually get them to talk to you without them being kind of on guard that, oh, this guy's going to sell me something?
Well, you have to really have a light approach about it. So if you don't want them to be annoyed, this guy, you don't know what their personality is, but you want to figure, how can I make them smile immediately when I get them on the phone? So one of the tricks that I use is confusion. And so I will say, hi, is this Joe? And I'll wait to get a response and say, yes, it's Joe. Hey, Joe, this is Howard Wolpoff. And I will stop talking and I will sit there and wait just a little bit and to see what kind of response that they give me. Sometimes they're like, hi, Howard, because they don't know, they can't remember if they know me or don't know me. Or be a little more sort of, hi, something question mark. And then I'll let them off the hook. If you're trying to put a face to the name, it may not work because we actually have not had the opportunity to meet yet. And the hope is you're gonna feel them smile, you're gonna hear them laugh, like, oh, that's why I couldn't figure out who the hell you were. And now you got a little chit chat conversation going as opposed to some cold caller on the phone. And now if you have a someone who's referred you, yeah, Joe, Michael suggested to that I give you a call, and then start. You've already taken notes with Michael of good things to talk about Joe. You're the best bowler on our bowling league. What a great father! All the things you're doing. You're the most successful partner at our law firm. And then after you've buttered them up like that, you'll say, "Does this help me or does this hurt me?" And so and ask them, and they left. Did I miss anything? So now it's all about them. It's all lighthearted, and then you can go where the reason why I call is, and then go into your pitch. So if you're just calling, hey, my name's Howard. I'm a sales coach. I would love to talk to you about sales coaching for your sales team. 99.9 out of 100 are not going to let me go any further than that.
Right.
Yep.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Yeah. Okay. That's great. As we start to wrap up, if you could give 3 pieces of sales advice to a self-employed consultant, what would they be?
Advice to a consultant: have a plan. You have to have a plan. You're not just saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this, and here's my shingle." You have to have a plan. I would also say make sure you save up before you start. You don't want to go in, like, granted, sometimes you're fired and you have no other choices. I've got, okay, this is the kick in the butt I needed. I'm going to go do this. It does make it easier if you have some flexible funds, not only just to live off of, but to spend on certain things, building the right website instead of, okay, I got to go do it myself through a software and it doesn't look good. Being able to purchase certain other methods to help you move the needle forward. That is very helpful. And again, and just understanding how to sell, because no matter what you're doing, you have to be selling. It's very rare there's a job that you're not selling. If someone goes to medical school and becomes a dentist and opens up a practice, what do they have to do? Sell themselves as dentists. It's not just fixing teeth, it's selling people to be a client. So I can go on with all these other different industries, but selling is the heart of everything that has to do with the business.
Okay. Now, sales is a very big, broad area, but what's the one sales skill that, if mastered, would transform most consultants' businesses?
Understanding the personality of the person you're speaking to. And I say that because there's basically 4 different types of personalities, and some blend into each other, but they're 4 distinct ones. And if you can figure out, first of all, if you have an understanding of your personality and how it interacts with the other 3, and then you can quickly pick up what that personality is, there are ways to speak to that person within your personality that will open up a conversation better than butting heads with people who are just like, there are people who you get on the phone and it's clear this is the worst decision in the world they've made, picking up the phone. But if you know how to soften that person, you might actually get a sale out of it. But if you fall into the pattern that they are sharing, then that's never going to happen.
Okay. Now, if for somebody who's listening to this podcast who's thinking, I need help with sales, but I can't afford coaching, what's the one thing they could start doing tomorrow?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot of information out there. Even if you just go to my LinkedIn profile, what I write on a daily basis really gives a lot of different types of tips and things that sales leaders and sales individuals should focus on. So even that would help build up your mindset differently about sales, even if you don't have the full hand holding one-on-one coaching that someone who goes into sales coaching is getting. Because the truth is, it is very, very rare that anyone has any school training on how to sell. So you're not alone in that, because I would say 75% of people who are selling right now had no training whatsoever. Whether they've gotten some training, specific training at the places they've worked at, or coaching, that's the only way that really is developed it.
Okay. Do you work with self-employed consultants?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think that they have a great need to sell, because most of them are wearing multiple hats, and the faster, the better you can teach them to sell, and the faster they're able to create the revenues they need, then the faster they can hire other people on to build this into more of a company than just a solopreneur operation, and someone else can do the selling for them while they're focusing on what their real talents are.
Okay. Great. Well, any last words of wisdom before we sign off for today?
I have a friend I used to work with in baseball, and his slogan was, "If you're not selling, you're not selling." So if you look at the phone and said, "Not again," okay, you gotta get that out of your head. Pick up the phone, make the phone calls. That's the only way you're going to keep your business and yourself moving forward.
Okay. It's interesting because phone calling is when people talk about lead generation techniques, phone calling is often not in that list of things they want to do. So that is challenging, good advice, but challenging for a lot of people who don't want to have to do that.
Unfortunately, at some point, you're going to have to speak to the person if they're clients, and the only way to get them to be a client is to speak to the person.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you another. I said that was the last one, but I'm curious because one of the sort of popular sales process or marketing processes right now is to develop a freebie or a lead magnet that gets somebody to opt in and give you their email address. And then from that, you then hopefully figure out a way to get them on a discovery call, otherwise known as a sales call. What do you think of that as a way to get leads in without having to make phone calls?
I think it's a great way to generate leads. I think if you have the right email campaign that goes along with it, you may not have to make phone calls in that situation, depending on what you're selling. If you're selling a course and you do everything online, that's the best way to go. But if you're really selling a service, selling yourself as a, I'll call it an educator of someone in different ways and different methods, that you're going to have to speak to them at some point in time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you, Howard, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much.
That was Howard Wolpoff. And what a conversation. If there's one thing I want you to remember from today's episode, it's this: your relationship with selling doesn't have to stay the same. Howard went from saying, "I suck at sales," to building a successful coaching practice by focusing on getting early wins, analyzing what worked, and building confidence systematically. The key insight here is that selling isn't some mystical talent you're born with. It's a learning skill that gets better with practice and the right approach. So here's what I want you to do after listening to this podcast. Pick one technique Howard shared today and commit to trying it this week. Maybe it's his confusion technique for your next cold call, or perhaps it's reaching out to someone in your network about being a guest on a podcast interview. Whatever resonates with you, take that first step. Remember what Howard's baseball friend said: if you're not selling, you're not selling. The only way to get better at this is to actually do it. Thank you for joining me on the Thriving Through podcast today. If this episode helped you, please share it with another consultant who might benefit, and like and subscribe. And until next time, keep thriving through.